Imagine we're entering 2025, a new year full of opportunities. But here's a hard truth: 95% of people will continue living with financial difficulties. And it's not because they lack talent, intelligence, or even dedication. Many of these people work hard every day, wake up early, give their best, but remain trapped in the same cycle of tight bills and postponed dreams. The problem lies in something much more subtle: habits and repeated decisions, almost automatic, that silently destroy the chances of prospering. It's like someone trying to fill a leaky bucket. No matter how much effort they put in, the water will always escape. These holes are the fatal errors that most people insist on repeating without realizing it. And that's exactly what this alert is about. 6 financial and life errors that are preventing 95% of people from achieving prosperity. Those who don't pay attention to them will continue in 2025 living the same reality as previous years: debts, stress, insecurity, and frustration. But those who have the courage to see these errors and eliminate them from their lives will discover something powerful. The road to financial freedom isn't blocked, just full of hidden traps. And today I'm going to show you each one of them. This is perhaps the most common and also the most dangerous error. The scene is usually always similar. A relative comes to you, usually in a delicate moment, asking for just a temporary loan. The justification is convincing: paying an overdue bill, covering an emergency, or even starting a small business. You wanting to help, open your wallet and lend. But what happens next? Often this temporary loan is never returned, not out of malice, but because the person who asked is also trapped in financial difficulties. And then, what was supposed to be an act of support becomes a wound within the family. Resentment arises. On one side, you feel used. On the other, the relative starts avoiding you, ashamed or afraid of being asked for payment. The result: broken relationships and family dinners full of embarrassing silence. That's why the golden rule is clear. If you decide to help, let it be a gift, never a loan. Give what you can without expecting return, because money lent between relatives isn't just money. It's the fuel for arguments, hurt feelings, and estrangements. Do you really want to support someone in your family? Then offer something much more powerful than a few dollars. Offer knowledge. Show how to organize a budget, teach the importance of an emergency fund, explain how small saving habits can prevent future crises. This is the help that transforms, because it doesn't create dependence, it creates independence. And remember, you are not the family bank. Banks have rules, guarantees, and contracts. You don't. Your role is not to be a creditor to relatives, but rather an example of financial discipline. Here's another silent trap: believing that family can be the best partner, associate, or even business advisor. It seems logical at first. After all, they're trustworthy people you've known for years. But reality shows this is a minefield. Let's imagine a simple example. You decide to open a small business and, excited, share the idea at Sunday lunch. Instead of support, what you receive are looks of distrust and comments like, "Will this work out?" or "Better not risk it, it's dangerous." What was enthusiasm turns into doubt. The criticism often doesn't come from malice, but from fear. But this fear can cut your wings before you even try to fly, and the risk goes beyond. When you put relatives inside the business, you mix 2 areas that should never meet: emotional ties and rational decisions. Imagine having to fire a cousin who doesn't meet deadlines, or tell a brother that he's hindering more than helping. These conversations rarely end well. What was supposed to be a company becomes a field of family resentments. Therefore, the rule is crystal clear. Family is for emotional support. Business requires a separate professional network. If you want to grow, seek mentors, partners, and market colleagues. People who have the necessary coldness to give practical advice without the weight of blood connection. Robert Kiyosaki always reinforces, those who wish to prosper need to build a healthy financial circle made up of people who understand investment, entrepreneurship, and risks. The family can be in the stands cheering, but should not be confused with the team that plays together on the field. This is an error that destroys not only relationships, but also peace within the entire family. Imagine the scene. A couple fights. At home, harsh words are said in the heat of the moment, and that same night, one of them runs to vent to their mother, brother, or even an adult child. The intention seems innocent, seeking support, someone to listen and give advice, but the effect of this is devastating. Why? Because the couple's argument most of the time is temporary. 2 days later, both have already reconciled, apologized, and moved on. But for the family who heard the venting, there is no reconciliation. What they keep is the memory of negative words. He doesn't respect you. She doesn't value you. You deserve someone better. The resentment remains, even after the couple has already overcome the conflict. This type of exposure creates a crack that hardly heals. Family parties start having crossed looks, indirect comments, and even estrangements. And all because a problem that should have been resolved by two was amplified to a circle of people who can't forget or forgive at the same pace. The rule is simple and liberating. Couple problems are solved by the couple. If the situation is really heavy and needs help, the solution is to seek a neutral person, a counselor, a therapist, or even a trusted friend who won't carry resentment against the partner. But involving family members is like throwing gasoline on the fire. Financial and emotional harmony depends on this care. After all, prosperity isn't just money, it's also peace at home. A home at war will never be fertile ground for growth. This error is treacherous because it seems harmless, but corrodes the mind gradually. Today, with social media, it has become even more dangerous. Just a few minutes scrolling, and you already feel behind. Friends posting international trips, acquaintances showing off new cars, colleagues showing expensive restaurants or newly renovated houses. It's as if everyone is living better than you. But here's the truth. What you see is just the storefront, not the inventory. Nobody posts overdue installments, hidden loans, sleepless nights thinking about debts. What appears online is an edited version, carefully assembled to impress. And when you compare yourself to this, you enter an impossible game to win. The great danger is measuring your own life by others' standards. When you do this, you lose focus on the only comparison that really matters, the comparison with yesterday's you. The question shouldn't be, am I better than so-and-so, but rather, am I better than I was last year? A practical exercise that can transform this mentality is simple. Take a notebook and write down at least 5 achievements from the last year. They can be big or small things. Having paid off a debt, having started savings, having read 2 books about finances, having managed to better control expenses. When you look back and see your own progress, you realize you're moving forward, even if the pace isn't that of others. Prosperity isn't a 100-meter race against neighbors or co-workers. It's a personal marathon where each step taken is already a victory. Comfort is seductive. It presents itself as security, as stability, but in reality it can be an invisible prison that keeps millions of people stuck in the same place. Think about it. How many times have you heard someone say, "I prefer to stay at my job, even hating it, because at least I know what to expect"? This is the silent cry of those trapped in comfort. But prosperity isn't born where there's complacency. Growth requires movement, requires calculated risks, requires leaving the zone where everything is predictable. Financial success rarely comes to those who do only the bare minimum. It's built by those who dare to try something new, who face the fear of failure, and who accept taking uncertain steps, even without guarantees. Think of a seed. If it's not buried in the earth, where everything seems dark and uncertain, it will never become a tree. The same logic applies to us. Staying in comfort is like remaining inside the seed packet, safe but stagnant. To grow, you must endure the initial discomfort. A simple practice to break this barrier is to choose every week one thing you fear and do it anyway. It could be speaking in public, starting a small investment, talking to someone you admire to ask for advice, or even cutting an expense that seemed impossible to eliminate. These are small acts of courage that, accumulated, build a new life. Remember, wealth isn't for those who seek eternal comfort, but for those who accept temporary discomfort in exchange for future freedom. Of all the errors, this may be the most silent. Perfectionism. It gives the impression of discipline, of care, but in reality, it's a thief of opportunities. How many people do you know who have great ideas, but never put them into practice because they're waiting for the right moment? The business that never gets off paper, the investment that never starts, the course that never launches, everything gets stuck in the drawer of "it's not perfect yet." The truth is that the world doesn't reward those who only dream in grand style. It rewards those who act, even if the action is imperfect. Think of a poorly made sketch. It can be corrected, improved, refined, but a blank sheet never creates anything. Similarly, a plan executed with flaws teaches more than a perfect plan that was never tested. The secret is accepting conscious imperfection. It doesn't mean doing things carelessly, but understanding that growth comes from the process. The first investment may be small, the first business may be work, the first step may seem shaky, but it's this initial movement that opens doors to learning and future adjustments. Remember, imperfect action is infinitely more valuable than perfect ideas never realized. Those who start today, even without being completely ready, are already years ahead of those who wait for the ideal scenario. We've reached the final point of this journey, and the message couldn't be clearer. If you want to prosper in 2025, you need to eliminate these 6 errors from your life. They seem like small details, but in practice they're like invisible chains that keep you stuck in the same place. Even with all effort and dedication, lending money to family, mixing blood ties with business, exposing couple fights, living comparing yourself to others, settling into comfort and waiting for perfection. All of this has a cost, and the price is high. The loss of your financial freedom, your peace, and your chances of building the future you deserve. But there's good news. The key to transformation is in your hands. You don't need to wait for the perfect scenario. You don't need to have all the answers. What you need is to make the decision to act now, because wealth isn't the fruit of luck, but of conscious choices made day after day. If you take just one step today, you'll already be closer to freedom than those who keep waiting. Remember, the ideal moment doesn't exist. The right moment is this one. There's a truth that few like to hear, but that can change everything. The greatest enemy of your prosperity isn't the government, isn't the economy, nor the lack of opportunities. The greatest enemy is the way you see yourself and your possibilities. Many people spend their entire lives believing they were born to live paycheck to paycheck, always on the edge, as if wealth were a privilege of a few chosen ones. But the reality is different. Wealth is a mindset decision before being a reality in the pocket. When you change the way you think, you change the way you act. And when you change your actions, you inevitably change your results. Robert Kiyosaki often says that the most powerful asset you possess is your mind. And the question you need to ask yourself is, are you feeding your mind with fear, doubts, and comparisons, or with knowledge, courage, and discipline? Because everything you believe becomes the foundation of the life you build. It's not just about money, but about purpose. True prosperity is born when you decide you're no longer going to live on autopilot. when you choose to learn, even if others laugh, when you decide to invest, even if it seems little, when you plant today the seed of a different life, even if the fruits still take time to appear. The final reflection is simple but powerful. 5 years from now, will you thank yourself for the decisions you made now, or will you regret the opportunities you let pass? The choice is in your hands today. How? Many times have you heard someone say, "When I win the lottery, my life will change." Or even, "I'm waiting for a great opportunity to appear." This thinking is common, but it's also one of the greatest saboteurs of prosperity. The truth is simple. Luck doesn't build wealth. It only delivers passing results. Just look at the countless stories of people who won fortunes overnight, but who in a few years were poorer than before. Why? Because the mindset didn't change. The money arrived, but the discipline and knowledge weren't ready to sustain it. Waiting for luck is like sitting in front of an empty lot, waiting for the wind. To build a house, a piece of wood might fall here and there, but the house will never be built by itself. Building wealth requires attitude, placing brick upon brick, day after day, with patience and consistency. If you really want to change your life, forget the hope of a stroke of luck and focus on what's under your control, learning, planning, and acting. This is the path that transforms dreams into solid reality. There's a mental trap that paralyzes many people. The idea that to change your life, you need to start big. That it's only worth investing if you have a lot of money. That you can only start a business if you already have a huge structure. That it's only worth studying if you can pay for an expensive course. This belief is responsible for keeping millions stagnant. But the reality is different. Great transformations begin on a small scale. Think of an investment of just $100 per month. It seems little, doesn't it? But over the years, this amount, added to compound interest, can transform into considerable wealth. The same goes for a business. Starting by selling a product to a few people can be the embryo of a company that, in the future, will reach hundreds or thousands of customers. The key is understanding that what's important isn't the size of the first step, but the fact of having taken it. A 1,000-kilometer journey begins with a simple movement of the foot, and each movement counts. What seems small today, if repeated with consistency, becomes gigantic tomorrow. So if you think you don't have much yet, remember, it's not about quantity, it's about starting. There's an old saying that goes, "Tell me who you walk with and I'll tell you who you are." In the financial world, this is even more true. The people you live with daily shape your mentality, your beliefs, and even what you believe is possible for your life. If your social circle is formed by people who only complain about the economy, keep saying that investing is too risky, or that money isn't for people like us, sooner or later you'll start repeating these same phrases, and without realizing it, you'll start living limited by others' thinking. On the other hand, when you get close to people who seek to grow, who study, who talk about investments, business, opportunities, your mind inevitably expands. You start seeing paths that previously seemed invisible. Prosperity isn't born only from individual effort, but also from the environment that feeds your vision of the future. Therefore, look around and make an honest reflection. Do the people closest to you pull you up or drag you down? If the answer is harsh, maybe it's time to seek new circles of coexistence, not abandoning those you love, but balancing your life with people who can inspire and strengthen you. One of the biggest errors that prevent people from prospering is living only for the immediate. The focus is always on the current month, paying bills, enjoying the weekend, buying something to feel quick pleasure. This short-term vision gives a sense of comfort but hides a trap. It steals the future. Those who think only about now never build lasting stability. It's like spending all the seeds on today's dinner and then complaining about the lack of harvest tomorrow. True prosperity is the fruit of decisions that often don't give instant pleasure, but create security and abundance in the future. Think of someone who invests $200 per month for 20 years. At first, it seems little, almost insignificant. But with time, compound interest transforms this habit into solid wealth, capable of sustaining not only this person, but also their family. Meanwhile, those who only seek immediate pleasure continue chasing the next paycheck. Wealth belongs to those who know how to give up a little today to harvest much tomorrow. This is the long-term mentality, planting now to live with abundance later. The world is full of incredibly talented people who never achieved anything great. Why? Because talent alone doesn't guarantee results. What really transforms lives is discipline, the ability to repeat small actions every day, even when there's no motivation, even when nobody is applauding. Think of someone who earns well, but spends everything because they believe tomorrow I'll figure it out. The talent of making money means nothing without the discipline to manage it. On the other hand, a person who may not have such a high salary, but has the discipline to save 10% of everything that comes in, sooner or later will accumulate more wealth than many who earn triple. Discipline is waking up early to study when the body asks for more sleep. It's investing even when the amount seems small. It's refusing immediate pleasure in exchange for future freedom. And here's the great truth. Discipline beats talent every time talent gets comfortable. If you want to prosper, you don't need to be the smartest, the luckiest, or the most talented. You need to be the most consistent. Because success isn't the fruit of occasional explosions of effort, but of the consistency of those who do what needs to be done day after day. Many people believe that life changes with a big decision, a remarkable moment, almost cinematic. But in practice, it's not like that. What really shapes a person's destiny are the small choices made every day. Think about it. Deciding to have coffee out or bring it from home. Choosing to save $50 or spend it on something that will lose value in days. Opting to read 10 pages of a book about finances or spend another hour scrolling on the phone. These decisions seem insignificant, but accumulated over the years, they create totally different realities. It's like walking. Each step is small, but after thousands of them, you've already traveled a long distance. The same happens with finances. It's not the big stroke of luck that changes your life, but rather the daily micro decisions you make, consciously or unconsciously. The question that remains is, are the choices you're repeating today taking you toward freedom or toward financial prison? Because your future won't be decided all at once. It's being built silently every day. We've reached the end of this journey. You've seen that prosperity doesn't depend on luck, doesn't depend on extraordinary talent, but rather on choices that anyone can make. Avoiding the 6 fatal errors and applying the extra teachings we shared here can be the watershed between repeating 2025 as another year of difficulties or transforming 2025 into the year your financial life began to truly change. Remember, it's not the big leaps that change destiny, but the consistent steps taken every day. It's saying no to useless comparisons, abandoning perfectionism, resisting deceptive comfort, and above all, deciding to act. Life doesn't change with promises or waiting, it changes with action. And now I want to invite you to be part of this transformation. If this video brought value to you, like it, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to the channel. This way, you help me continue bringing content that can open thousands of people's eyes, and at the same time, ensure you'll always receive new ideas to grow financially and live with more freedom. Because in the end, the big question is, what will you choose to do from today on? Continue repeating the old errors, or take the first step to write a new story? The answer is in your hands.